Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Jyotirmayananda Society, our journey to self-realization. Please subscribe for the mystical meanings of the scriptures and to enjoy daily satsang. We are currently studying Yoga of Perfection, summary of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, commentaries by Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. Today we will study the summary of chapter 5, Karma Sannyas Yoga, Yoga of Renunciation of Action. Having heard the praise of knowledge of renunciation, Arjuna was confused regarding the implications of the teachings. If knowledge or renunciation is the final attainment, why should he engage himself in the yoga of action? Lord Krishna, realizing that Arjuna has not yet understood the secrets of Karma Yoga, he spoke, mere renunciation of action does not lead to the highest bliss. Yoga of action is superior to mere renunciation. In fact, renunciation is the highest state. But the renunciation that is conceived in Arjuna's mind is faulty. It has more of external value. It is incompatible with the performance of actions. But real renunciation is more of a mental nature. It is compatible with the performance of actions. To one who has renounced his ego and attachments, all actions are converted into karma yoga, a spiritual process leading to the fullest realization of the self. He alone is called a real sannyasi who neither hates nor desires. He is free from the pairs of opposites. There is no real difference between Sankhya Yoga and Yoga of Action. Yoga of Action is a prior stage of the Yoga of Knowledge. In Yoga of Action, there is more leaning on the action, while in the Yoga of Knowledge, there is more emphasis on the one pointed flow of intellect towards Brahman, the Absolute. There are two stages in spiritual unfoldment: the path of action and the path of knowledge. They are far apart and cannot be combined. But the yoga of action is different from the path of action, because the path of action is performance of religious rites for selfish ends, while yoga of action is a process of unfoldment of the spiritual vision by converting actions into the process of yoga. Therefore, he who sees knowledge and karma yogas as different is ignorant. If one is established in any one of the two, one is sure to reach the goal of God realization or self realization. Karma yoga in its perfected state is Jnana yoga. The practice of Jnana yoga is implied in Karma yoga. Jnana yoga includes the path of devotion also. A karma yogi, having attained perfection, realizes that he is the self of all beings. He feels that even in the midst of all types of actions, the self is devoid of all actions. He remains untainted by the actions of the world, even as a lotus leaf that remains untouched by water. A karma yogi performs all actions for the purification of the self. When the self or the heart is purified, that is, when the self is reflected more and more in the purified heart, a yogi attains self realization. Having torn the veil of ignorance, he experiences supreme felicity. He becomes the emperor of the nine gated city of the body. He is no more a prisoner in the prison of the body. He sees the world rooted in God, his intellect absorbed in God. His sins are destroyed by knowledge. He beholds the self in all. He overcomes the world process even here in this world. He delights in the self. He sees nothing else but the self. The pleasures born of contact of senses in sense objects are the sources of pain. One is driven to sense enjoyments through the force of anger and desire. An aspirant should control them. One who subdues desire and attains yoga. If you can subside your desire and anger also, then you attain yoga. He finds happiness within. He becomes liberated. He engages himself in the welfare of all beings and he sees Brahman or God in all. In order to acquire freedom from desire and anger, one should take recourse to the practice of yoga. He should shut out all external objects and fix his gaze between the eyebrows, keeping inhalation and exhalation in harmony. Thus, with perseverance, one should control senses, mind, and intellect until the goal is reached. When intellect is freed from the sway of delusion, it beholds the glory of God, who is the friend of all, the Lord of all, the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Thus ends the fifth discourse. Moving on to chapter 6, Adhyatma Yoga, Yoga of Meditation. Lord Krishna continues, mere external marks of renunciation do not qualify a person for renunciation. One who performs his duties without expecting the fruits of actions is a sannyasin or a yogi. He is the performer of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga implies renunciation of thoughts of the world, of the little self. Therefore, Karma Yoga is a manifestation of renunciation itself, which is the same as Jnana Yoga. Those who are arukshu, the yogis who are in the process of ascending the ladder of yoga, for them there is leaning on actions. Action is said to be the means. They have to overcome the impurities of the heart by the performance of actions with spiritual vision. But those who are yoga rudas, those who have ascended the ladder of yoga, for them inaction or complete renunciation of ego and mental attachments is considered the means for final beatitude, for the attainment of videha mukti or liberation. There is leaning on action in the lower states of spiritual journey, but there is emphasis on inaction because of the mental serenity in the higher states. He is called Yoga Ruda, who has renounced all the thoughts of the objects, who is free from attachments. This state has to be realized by one's own effort, because the self of man which is undisciplined is his own enemy, while the self of man that is purified by spiritual disciplines is his greatest friend and benefactor. One should therefore lift one's lower nature by the efforts of the higher in oneself. A sage who has attained realization is established in equal vision. To him, a lump of earth, a stone, and gold are the same. He is endowed with knowledge and realization. He is supremely satisfied. In order to attain this, one should practice the yoga of meditation. A practitioner should find a secluded place fit for the practice of uninterrupted meditation. He should live in solitude, eating little food. He should focus his entire energy for the attainment of success in meditation. Finding a clean spot, he should spread his seat. The place should be neither too high nor too low. It should be free from wind and other causes of agitation. There he should sit in any of the asanas for meditation. He should practice concentration, meditation, and samadhi by steady effort. This practice purifies the mind and the heart. The impressions of the worldly enjoyments and the afflictions are deep rooted in the subconscious. By the practice of repeated concentration, a yogi creates positive impressions in the subconscious which destroy the negative ones. Distracted, dull, partially concentrated, fully concentrated, and controlled. These are the five states of the mind stuff. A yogi gradually conquers these states by the practice of twofold yoga, external and internal. Practice of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara are considered to be the external means, and the practice of concentration, meditation, and samadhi are called the internal means. The impressions of the higher states destroy the impressions of the lower states and thus allow a yogi to ascend the ladder of yoga. Hari Om Tat Sat. We will continue this journey in tomorrow's satsang. Hari Om.